Okay, so in the journey of trying to understand curriculum theories, we first need to remember that definition of a curriculum that normally we used working definitions, which is curriculum as a plan for action and curriculum is a plan of action. So in other words, if we follow a certain plan, it will be curriculum as a plan for that action or for that teaching if we are teaching, or if we are learning, a plan for learning. Now, but if we are talking about what we have already done, we are reflecting on it in order to produce a plan. Is now a plan of action. Like our CVs, when we have our CV, we are applying for certain jobs, then we have our CVs. Our CVs are plans of our experiences because we just use them for our action to indicate to the world that we are capable of doing A, B, C, D, because we have this kind of experience in terms of our education and then in terms of our practical experience in our profession. So that's a plan of. But if you talk about a lesson plan or prescribed curriculum, it's a plan for teaching and learning. So normally theories then are divided into that. And there are few of those that start now to bring in the nature of who. Who are we addressing here? Whose need are we addressing here? So mostly the theories that we have helped us to understand our professions through performance-based curriculum. And then they've also helped us to understand our societies through competence-based curriculum. So you may see most of the theories then are coming from these two forms of curriculum. So now what we are saying then in this lecture, we are saying we should try to draw the strength of that performance-based curriculum and combine it with the strength of those competence-based curricula. Therefore, that will help us to find a neutral position, which will help us to answer the issue of who is learning, who is teaching. Once you know who is teaching and who is learning, we are starting in a nice platform which will address the needs of those two. Is the teacher and the learner. But it shouldn't be the learner only, or it shouldn't be the teacher only. It should be, the question should be, who is teaching, who is learning? You allow those two to reflect on what they are doing, and then they continue the journey of finding their objective realities. So where is that happening? That is happening through what we have as our human mind. So remember, human mind, since conception, we were able to move and do whatever we were doing. Now, even when we were born, we were able to breathe, we were able to digest, we were able to have our heartbeats working, everything. And we're doing that very well, perfect, which means there's internal intelligence that we have that we are ignoring when we do what we are doing. Therefore, with this module then, or this lecture, we should now start to remember that journey that we had when we were born, and then we coded whatever we were doing through that subconscious minds. Our subconscious mind have collected all the relevant tools that help us to survive and increase our joy if we want to increase our joy. At the same time, that subconscious mind is capable of decreasing joy Because if, for example, if we strongly use some specific superstitions that are not scientifically working for us, we may use them, but only to find that at the certain age, we start to suffer because of those superstitions or those beliefs or those habits, which we are not aware of. So now what is important then is to be aware of all your tools that you have in your subconscious mind. So those tools will work well for you if you reflect on them. You then adjust them to help you to be happy, to increase your happiness, instead of allowing them to decrease your happiness. So you have a choice here to make sure that they increase your happiness as you grow, or they may decrease your happiness as you go. So theories that you feed here may then start to work according to what you want to do. If you want to increase, they will work like that because you'll choose only theories that are working for you, and then you use them. And then how do you do that? You always have to reason. You have to reason there. You have a power to reason and then interrogate what you have as a superstition maybe in your process. And then you then start to remove those, and then you will get used to it. How to do that is to bring what is working for you. What is working for you will need you to pay attention on what you need, and then you'll be able to help others after that. So that is the power of that conscious mind, of the mind, human mind. Animals only have the subconscious and conscious, the subconscious and unconscious. They don't have the reasoning power. That's why if lions want to eat you, they'll just eat you without saying that, no, this is our president, we should not eat him. No, they will just eat you like that. Because for them, they have the unconscious and subconscious. Subconscious and unconscious, those don't lie. They'll tell things as they are, subconscious and unconscious. But conscious is capable of deceiving, because you reason and then you pretend as if you like this, you don't like this. So that kind of environment is driven by your conscious. You are aware of this, and therefore you position yourself in such a way that people will think that you like this, yet you don't like it. Okay, so, but when you look at the theories that we have, most of them are drawing from, if not all of them, most of them, if not all of them, are drawing from these particular concepts. Here are the curriculum concepts that are capable of producing the theories that we have. So you have seen when you were going through the papers that I sent you, that at least one of these concepts, maybe from this side or from this side, it doesn't matter, but maybe at least one of them will be dominating that particular paper. So much that when you read with an alignment of understanding which of these curriculum concepts is driving what I'm doing. And the theories then are drawing from here. So which means in education, we don't have a new theory, but what you have as a new theory is certain concepts that are drawn from here and are positioned in such a way that they are creating a theory, steps that someone some other people have followed and then produced outcomes. Therefore, they are given to us as the theories that we may use in order to understand the reality. So we are trying to understand the reality, but it doesn't mean that they are reality on their own. No, they are not, but they are trying to give us reality. Okay, so Here are some that were generated a long time ago and even today are still dominating. I'm sure you understand Rolf Taylor's theory, which is called objective or product approach or product model. So according to Taylor, then Taylor will say, teachers are professional. Therefore, there's no space for learners to say something because they should listen to the professionals. Same thing applies if you go to the doctor. According to Taylor, you should not say anything to your doctor, but you expect your doctor to know what is affecting you. When you go to a Sangoma, you shouldn't tell the Sangoma what you are here for. The Sangoma should tell you exactly what you have in order for you to come closer to your objective reality. So Taylor's notion of this theory now is saying we must be able to ask the what question. What objectives should the teacher achieve? What content should the teacher teach? What resources should the teacher use? What assessment should the teacher use in assessing learners? So those are the 4 basic principles of Taylor's theory, which is objective or product model of teaching. So this product model of teaching, not learning, because for him, it's about teaching. Then learners will learn through teaching. So he is of the belief that when you teach someone, you will be able to change the behavior of that particular person. So if you teach them, there are 20 in your class, or there are 60 in your class. The expectation from Taylor is that if you're a good teacher, you will be able to achieve 100% in this group of yours, and all learners must master the content in order. Tabangu, Tandega. Okay. I thought that Tandega was asking some question. Okay, so it's saying then that when you teach, according to his theory, we should be achieving, our learners should all be achieving 100% when we teach. So when you teach your learners, the expectation is that they must all achieve 100%. Then the question is that, is it possible? Is that happening? Does that happen in your class? Then if it happens, then congratulations. Because according to our experiences, we have discovered that no, yes, others may pass with 100%, but not all of them. Then which means this is not the truth about teaching or learning. It's just about Taylor's notion or understanding what he needs in order to teach. That's what is happening. So it's not the truth about teaching, because if it was the truth about teaching, we should all apply this theory and get 100%, where our learners are all getting 100%. Then after that, then that theory was introduced in 1949 by Rolf Taylor, and then in 1975, then Stenhouse came very strongly to oppose what Taylor was indicating, to say that no. Teaching should be about learning. We should talk about learning instead of talking about teaching. Learners have their experience as well, which we need to incorporate in what we are doing. So for me, teaching should be a process. I need a process model instead of a product model. It's not about just a product where these learners are getting 100%, but it should be an accumulation of other things that represent their societies. Therefore, it should be a process process model. Then Lawrence Stenhouse then said, no, let's use this to answer the how then. How they learn, how we teach, how we do this and this. It's about how part of our learning. So now for him, the principles of learning should be you give your learners activities. If you want them to generate a table, take them to the computer laboratory, dump them there, and then allow them to use those computers. When they use those computers, maybe to create a table, if you want them to create a table, they will have to use them nicely. Then you just facilitate after that. So you also give them the outcome. What are the outcomes that will be achieved? So what are the outcomes that we have in our policies? And then you give them activities that are linked to certain outcomes. And then those outcomes will be achieved by learners through their everyday knowledge. They will apply everyday knowledge, because those whose parents are familiar with Microsoft Word, they'll use Microsoft Word to create that table. Those who are familiar with Microsoft Excel, they'll use Microsoft Excel to produce that table. So then this will then go back to colleagues who indicated that they will use constructivism. Remember, even this process that is that was indicated by Lawrence Stenhouse is part of constructivism, which is called social constructivism. So for him, the principles then were learning activities, outcomes, facilitation, which is the role of the teacher, is to facilitate, a peer assessment when you assess, you see. So that peer assessment is helping them to learn to assess other fellow students. Then they learn through that process. So much that when it comes to then to the needs, here we are, according to Lawrence Stenhouse, we should address the needs of our communities. And then Rolf Taylor, we should advance our professions. So the two theories are coming handy like that. But now, Paul Freire came with another notion called critical approach, critical model, where he started to say, no. You, Taylor, you are programming learners, okay, as if they are empty vessels. And then you, Lawrence Stenhouse, you are doing the same thing, but you claim to be addressing societal needs. But the challenge that you bring those activities, the activities are not coming with learners. Therefore, you are doing the same thing that is being applied by Rolf Taylor. Therefore, there's no difference between these two things of yours. That's what Paul Freire indicated to these two gentlemen. So to say that the fact that you brought in activities, you chose for the learners, and the computers that you have there, they also have your own interest, not the learner's interest. So now, how do you say you are different from Taylor? You are the same. So what should be happening is that when you teach, before you give them those computers, if you want them to create a table, all what you do, you ask them to reflect. They must tell us who are they, analyze them. Who is learning? Who is teaching? We must all reflect and critique our experiences. Then we start to learn. That's what Paul Freire will say. So that is, you see how these theories are generated. And then other researchers now started to use these kind of theories to produce other theories, because no one in this world has a theory that can give this world the so-called objective reality about anything. So all what we have is just the user interface for us to survive. Therefore, when you choose a theory, then choose a theory that is in line with your own activities. But usually, this is the trap that we used to have in education, where we were all saying, now we want to go for a competence-based curriculum. We just follow what Lawrence Stenhouse has advocated for. And then when we start to say, no, our learners are poor when it comes to content knowledge, let's bring the content now. Then we move back to Taylor to say, prescribed content like CAPS in South Africa, we prescribe content, we prescribe the aims, which is aims objectives, we prescribe resources, we use summative assessment with higher order, lower order, middle order. We are taking all those because we are stuck between these two. However, with that national revised curriculum, we were coming closer to this because we were saying we try to marry the two, but it was then difficult because the process had some challenges that teachers did not understand how you shift from this curriculum and this curriculum, because these forms of curriculum are challenging to teachers, except teachers who have done curriculum studies who understand this too. Like in your case, you are now aware of this, that if you say good education, or if you say quality education, you first have to tell us quality for who? For Ralph Taylor, or for Roland Stenhouse, or is it for Paul Freire and their fans? So you need to tell us about it, because that definition of quality education is not the same. And then again, the definition you have from your experience may also be different from what these people are advocating for. So it's then important then to understand what theories are shaping your journey. Here is another one by Bloom, Benjamin Bloom. Benjamin Bloom was of the opinion that no, we need to deal with goals. Goals are the key for Benjamin Bloom. They are key because what he's saying is saying you must establish measurable goals according to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels. So each of these levels has its own keywords that you can use in order to understand what you are doing. So when we teach or when we learn according to the goals that we want to achieve. If I teach, for example, here is the teaching process. The teaching process, it's about knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. That's what Bloom advocated for, to say this is what is happening when you teach. So in other words, when you come from performance-based curriculum, these are the terms that were normally used by different teachers using their experience. But when you start to say now you use competence-based curriculum is about process. Remember Lawrence Stenhouse, process model. It's about process. But this side, it's about noun. And then in this process, then you start to remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So they are positioned like that. So it depends where you are coming from then. If you come from Taylor's notion of education, you will be using these kind of words. But the key words are the same for all of them. And then this side, if you take the process model according to the needs of your society, then you will use those. So That's how then the theories are being generated. But generating them like this are generated according to certain concepts that we have already identified in the table. So this Bloom's taxonomies, it's about goals of teaching and learning or goals of our actions. So we use these keywords then. So in other words, if you say you want to prepare learning outcomes of the lower order, middle order, usually with the Department of Basic Education, they call this the first two levels as the lower order. The middle one, the middle order, and the last two, the higher order. So when you set your examination question paper, you need to have, according to your subject, maybe you have 40% from these keywords, another 40%, another 40 for this middle order, and another 20 for the higher order. Higher order is always 20. But other subject will say 30% for this one, 50% for the middle order, and 20% for the higher order. So you decide what your subject will tell you at the moment, and then work according to that. But you can see the keywords there. For example, if you are talking about lower order, it's where you can simply say, learners will define, describe, name, list, etc., etc. Those are something that learners can just memorize and reproduce that for you. But if you look at the top ones there, where someone can grade, someone can evaluate, someone can critique. So those are the big ones, because you need to understand the thing that you want to critique. You cannot critique it if you have limited knowledge about it. If your knowledge is about a lower order there, you cannot critique that. You'll only critique once you have knowledge of the higher order. So that's what you have. I'm sure you have seen Bloom's taxonomies, especially those who are national examiners, because the first document that the department is generating, if you set a national question paper, is to give you Bloom's taxonomies. And then from there, you can start to position the questions according to lower order, middle order, and higher order. If that is not the case, they will reject your paper. Then you have to set it again. But others now are starting to say, no, it shouldn't be that, because what this model is saying most people are interested in lower order things or lower order actions. And then when you go to middle order, they are reduced in numbers. And then when you go to the higher order, very few. That's why the higher order always, in all the subjects across the board in South Africa, they have 20%. In your formal assessment, which is summative assessment, you always have 20% there, because very few learners will come to what we call level 4 questioning. Because most schools now are using levels. That question is for level 4, which means they mean the higher order of that. But now others have started to say, no. Analyzing, evaluating, creating are of the same level. They should be of the same level, because analyzing, you analyze something that you understand very well. You evaluate something that you understand very well. At the same time, when you create, you also create something that you know very well. But when it comes to application, you may apply a certain theory without understanding it, because you follow the principles of that theory. When it comes to understanding the issue, again, you may understand it at a level where you can only discuss at the lower level or just explain a summary of that. So remembering then it's about naming, finding, etc. You can see the keywords that are used in each of these, that When you design your curriculum, you make sure that you are aware of this. The positioning of these keywords is very important because they have to do with the level of complexity. So that's what Bloom's taxonomy is about. And then Emmanuel, who decided that he will use a pragmatic paradigm. Here is a nice theory that can be in line with that pragmatic paradigm, because it means he will be following what Paul Freire is saying. It's a theory of asking who in order to understand why. So moving away from the theories that are asking what should we do and how we do. So you go beyond to say, okay, yes, you can do it like that, but who are you? We need to know you first before you do that. For example, if you say, I've written a book, I've written a history book, then we first need to know, are you a historian? Are you, what qualification do you have in history? Do you have master's or PhD? If the answer is no, we start to doubt you, to say, okay. You see, something like that. So, which means the who, it's important in order for us to believe in you. So if we're a specialist in that subject, we can believe what you are telling us. But if not, we start to say, no, but who are you? Who designed what you are telling us? And then if we discover that, no, that was a mathematics teacher who designed that thing for history. No, it's not working for us, you see? So it should be about, so Curel then, which will be a frame of a frame for your major assignment 1, is part of those pragmatism theories, which is under the pragmatic paradigm or pragmatic curriculum. So you know that I don't have to explain it because we have already discussed that, where we indicated that there are 4 principles of Curel. Is regressive, which is talking about going back to your educational experience, how you generated that knowledge of the knowledge of education you had when you started that journey of entering education. So, and then after that you go, so you use that experience as your data source. You have that data, you interrogate it. And then while you interrogate it, remember there are specific concepts that were important when you were doing what you were doing. Maybe you were following what Taylor is saying, or maybe you were following what Roland Stenhouse is saying, or you were following what Paul Freire is saying, or whatever you had there. That experience will be your data source. And then you deal with those issues like that. And then when you go to the next moment, which is regressive moment, that's where you start the imagination now to say, okay, because this is what I was doing. So it's, which means my finger used to be like this, or my head used to be like this, or this used to be like this. And then you have that imagination of what is happening, and then you predict then using that what will happen next then. And then after that, then you start to analyze that, both regressive moment and progressive moment, to analyze them and produce your future now to say, okay, in future, this is what I want to see myself doing. Because at the moment, I'm doing this, but previously I was doing this. Now I want to see myself doing this. And then you show specific curriculum concept that will do that for you. To say, when I started, I was using this concept, but they did not work for me well. But today I'm using these. They seem to be working well. Then in future, what do you want to use then? What do you think will be your future? Then you follow that. Then at last, then you synthesize all those, and then you tell us about your new identity now, which reflect the present, the past, and your future. Then we'll know you now to say that this is how you do things. That's correct. And then we also have another theory. Remember, we had it under decolonization of knowledge, technological issues, and pedagogical issues. Also, this one started with Schulman. Schulman started this theory by indicating that when you teach, all teachers must have knowledge of pedagogy, knowledge of content, and then knowledge of curriculum. Those are the three knowledges that you need to have. Forms of knowledge, according to Schulman, they were like that. But other authors who came after him, they started to say, no. But technology it's about curriculum. That's part of curriculum. That's one concept of curriculum. Pedagogy, it's an umbrella term for specific curriculum concept like assessment, goals, etc. And then, so which means if you say your third principle is curriculum knowledge, you are contradicting yourself. Then they started to say, no, let's restructure the theory now. The theory should be technological, so knowledge of technology, because today we use technology as a resource of what we are doing. And then we have pedagogy, so that all other curriculum concepts that you may think of that are not technology will go in there. And then lastly, we have content knowledge, that your subject has specific content, you should be able to master that, so that when you teach your learners, you know exactly what the content is about for your particular subject. So it ended up now being technological, pedagogical content knowledge, so that we don't include curriculum anymore. So Mishra and others brought in this theory. So, but you read, if you go to your learning management system, I have all these theories there, linked there. All what you do, just go check each and every one of them and then understand them. And if you decide to choose one of them, you can then choose one of them, especially today that we are dealing with the issues of COVID-19, where we all became educational technologists. Therefore, theories now will mostly draw from technological issues. Therefore, the curriculum theory that you may use for your study may be one of these theories that are more bringing the issue of technology. And then there's also another theory here by Anderson, where is of the opinion that, you know what, when we deal with issues here, we need to talk about what is presence there. So we must have the social presence, which is reflecting your society. We must have teaching presence, which is reflecting your discipline, which is competence-based, which is performance-based. And then the social presence is representing the society, the competence-based curriculum. And then in terms of pragmatic, then it's saying that your knowledge now, which means your internal intelligence, should be present when you are doing what you are doing. So it's saying cognitive presence. So here's three presence. So that three presence will produce educational experience. For him, then, education is nothing if it doesn't have these three presence. And then you can have the connecting part there where you are able to select relevant content. Here, connecting this, you may just make sure that you are setting the class. So in other words, this one is the environment. And this, if you talk about the curriculum concept we had that previously, this is about environment. This concept, it's content, and then this one there will represent some activities that are given to the learners. So that's what it's about. You can see that even community of inquiry is drawing from the curriculum concept. So the curriculum concept are always there, but how you position them, you may position them in a new way, but that does not mean these things are new. They are not new. It's just that you have managed to position them according to your needs. So that's what these theories are doing. So when you see these theories, you must know that they are like that. And remember the connectivism as well, connectivism, where they claim that this is the theory of digital age. Therefore, even the fourth industrial revolution, they're still claiming that it's, but if you look at the theory, you can see that no, it's just, these are just a curriculum concept, but they are positioned in a new way. There's nothing new, because you can see when they say learning is knowledge rests in the diversity of opinion. We are talking about community there. Who is learning, who is teaching? That's that. If they tell you about special notes, they are talking about school knowledge, content. Here's the content. If they say non-human appliances, they are talking about resources that you may not use a theory from what you have, but you may use a certain technology to teach your learners. And then goals, again, where they say currents, that has to do with what you are trying to achieve. And then how to keep the connection going. You are talking about your role. What is your role there? And then how about understanding field? Bring an environment that will help you to understand what management is about, what mathematics is about, what geography is about. You understand them because they are in the same environment. You bring a certain theory that will help you to understand whichever field that is out there. So much that when you understand curriculum well, any action, you can categorize it. If these people are using social action, which is directed by competence-based curriculum, you will see, because all that time they will be doing that to impress someone. So that action is social. But if they are doing it because they are following certain steps from a certain profession, strictly following steps, you can know that these people are influenced by performance-based curriculum. So the action is professional. And then if they do from their ideas, trying to connect, trying to do something that is really without pretending, you can start to see that no, they're following a pragmatic way of doing it. Therefore, that is personal. So you can see when people do things, it's easy for you, even your participants. Once you understand these concepts of curriculum well, you will be a king, because whatever people are doing out there is either social, professional, or personal. So if you don't want personal issues at that particular time, run as far away as possible, because if you are dealing with people who are professionals while you need personal issues, then they'll then fight with you. Or if they are social, they'll fight with you, because when you do things socially, you do to impress people. And then when you do things professionally, you do to express your profession. And then when you do personally, you express your happiness. So that's what you normally do. So all these theories then are drawing from there. And you can see this one will go as far as indicating that we should have something that is updated. So something that we used when we were 1 year old, and now that we are so many years old, we may not, it may not be useful because it doesn't fit according to our needs. For example, if we have to have a milk bottle, you feed on bottle. You can't do it today, but when you were 1 year old, it was easy to use that. So all the activities will grow with you, but make sure that you are aware of your needs so that you align them well. Your subconscious mind should work hard to only store what is working for you. Then you'll be increasing your happiness there. So you can see connectivism is on there. So, and then they are saying whatever you do in the process, you are learning because you are taking new decision to say, should I jump? Should I talk? Should I sleep? Should I this? That in its own, it's that in itself, it's a learning process for you. So that's what they say. So you remember this one again to say, sometimes we mix these issues in such a way that we end up in a situation where we think objectives are the same as outcomes, or we say goals and objectives, yet objectives are part of those goals. It's just that goals are divided into objectives, aims, and outcomes. So here in this chapter, then I divided them like this in order for the world to understand that. Try not to repeat, but position these things according to your real objectives. Then when I put them here again, I had to, when I wrote this paper about identity, teachers' identities, I wrote it in such a way that I brought in the issues of professional identity, social identity, personal identity. But what I'm emphasizing is the personal identity, where you know what you need. And then if you deal with your learners, you know what they need, and then they reflect on that so that they start to work naturally on what they are doing. Because the main aim of human being is to be naturally driven. But at the moment, this professional identity, societal identity are powerful enough to distract us from reflecting on what we are and what we are doing in order to critique those and then start to work according to our objective reality that we had when we were born. So that is the theory that I projected. And also there is also Engstrom, who started another journey here to say, okay, I can see all these theories, but for me, a theory that will work in order for us to understand our objective realities. Because when they write these theories, the aim is that it will work for all of us. So what Engstrom started to say, he said, we should call the theory of cultural historical activity theory. Because what we are doing habitually, it is part of our culture. And then we are using history, but you can track it back to your history to say, you have been eating like this since when you were 1 year old. So it's historically, and it has become your culture. It has become your culture, and then you are following that culture. And then it's calling that activity. Whatever action you are doing is activity according to him. Then he added the word theory. But when he started this, he said, when you teach, then go to your teaching. Remember, you must know your role. Who are you, the actor? And then after that, you need to have content. What content are you planning to deal with? And then after that, you need some tools. You need some tools to do what you are doing. If you are teaching your learners about something up the tree there, you should have your hand as a tool to point, to show them that here is this. So we need the tools all the time. So the tools then may be divided into hardware, software, and ideological way. So there are tools that we use as our ideas, the thinking. And then we also have hardware that you can use and software that you can use. So the tools represent what we call in our curriculum concepts is the resources. So the actor represent the role of the teacher. The object represent the content. You see, he brought in the same concept that we have that side, but he brought those three. Then later they challenged him to say, no, let's extend it to generation 2 then. Maybe generation 2 should include the outcome. That when we do what we are doing, there are outcomes that we achieve. So in other words, it's taking from the goals. So the theory moved like this. You see, it's generation 2 now. And then later it moved to this to say, no, hang on. When we teach or we learn, we always have community. In teaching, community may be our colleagues, teachers, and learners. So teachers and students form part of this community. And then we also need rules. What are the rules that we follow? Assessment rule, time as a rule, all those rules that guide us to finish our syllabi or whatever we are doing, they are part of the rules. So therefore, then cultural historical activity theory is like this. It has these principles. This one represents resources. This one represents teacher role. Who is the teacher and the role? This one represents the content. What is the content? This one represents the goals. This one represents community or grouping. Who are you teaching or who is teaching? And this one represents the roles. Then this one is coming to represent activities. What activities do we have there? But according to Engelstrom, is saying, no, the whole thing is about activity. So when we apply our minds to set our papers or teach, this is what we are doing, because we make sure that we know the content, we know our role, we know this. When we are aware of this, it's called cultural historical activity theory. So it's a theory of curriculum that you can also use as part of your study. Here is still the same chart. And then it has also some principles that you need to follow if you use that cultural historical activity theory. It says that when you apply it well, a task that you give your learners should be like this. They should have real world relevant. So in other words, if these learners are engineers, give them something that is coming from engineering. If they are teachers, give them what it's about teaching. So it must have real world relevance. So in other words, it should be in line with what they are doing on their daily basis. Number 2, tasks are ill-defined and include a number of subtasks. So in other words, you give them a project, they will have to divide that into subcategories. In this case, I divided major assignment 1 into 4 categories where you can take the regressive moment. But in your assignment 2, it's open because you are designing your own article, which means it's ill-defined so that you will generate a number of subsections in terms of what you will be writing. Tasks are complex and require students to undertake complex investigation. So it will need reading. Both these tasks, your project 1 and project 2, they need extensive reading. So all these articles that you have as part of your learning space, you need to take time, read them, and use them in your writing because they carry all those curriculum concepts that you may need as part of your major assignment 1 and major assignment 2. But it's your investigation that will lead to those issues, because if you don't read them, your investigation may not lead to that level. Tasks should provide opportunities for students to investigate the task from different perspectives. So in other words, you should be, if you teach history, you should be able to align that with history. If you teach geography, you should be able to align the task with that geography. So whatever you do, that's why I said you must use your own subjects in interrogating your experience in your major assignment 1. Provide collaborative opportunities, then you can even deal with this issue by engaging other teachers in your field so that it will give more sense what you are experiencing or what you have been experiencing. Is it in line with other people or is not in line, something like that. And then it also should be integrated across different subject area. Yes, it should be able to, it should introduce you to other fields. So in other words, if you understand curriculum, you should be able to deal with maths curriculum, geography curriculum, all the subjects have one principle in designing curriculum. And then the culture of your subject is that thing that will now kick in, which will need you to understand your subject as well. But understanding curriculum, it's a process of understanding what is performance-based, what is competence-based, what is pragmatic curriculum. Then you'll then be able to understand whatever curriculum that is there, because principles of curriculum bring in all the subjects, no matter which one you are referring to, they are part of the principles are principles. So theory, so that's why now we are able to supervise students from different subjects. We are able to do that because we are curriculum specialists. Therefore, we know when they push for performance curriculum, we know the principles. When they push for competence-based curriculum, we know the principles. Therefore, we are working well with the notion of understanding what curriculum is about. Okay, then when you look at this, you just look at this presentation and see how it's happening. Curriculum also is talking more about curriculum that is produced by action research, where you are trying to improve your own practice. Action research, whether they call it participatory action research or they call it whatever form of action research, the main aim of action research is to improve one's performance. So in other words, all what is happening is that you have a stage called planning. You plan this thing. If you say, let's say you are conducting action research for your grade, you have other teachers who are teaching with you. All what you do, you plan together to say, okay, here's the plan for our teaching today. Then you go out there as your next stage or step. You implement it, you teach according to your plan. After that, you observe how your colleagues are doing, or you observe, or they observe yours, and then start now to look at it closely, what is working, what is not working, so that you'll then sit down together. You reflect to say, no, but this resource, it's not working for this subject, but this content was important because it has done this and this and this and this. So much that when you do this, when you do action research, trying to improve your practice or other people's practices, you are able to say, you plan there, you need something to plan, which means you are designing something together, and then you go and teach that something. You observe if this something is working, and then you reflect on it. After reflection, you replan again. So this stage you are replanning because you keep on improving. This world is a world of changes. So it's changing, it's advancing. So what you do here will not be the same as here, because when you move to the next phase, doing the cycle again, you will have something new, and then you deal with that something new. So when you decide to conduct action research as part of your dissertation next year, you must know that you can divide action research into many phases. Maybe you have phase one. If you feel that they've transformed your participants and you and yourself also, your practice has also improved, you may not go to the next phase to say, let me do this thing again, where you replan, add, observe, and that. So you keep on doing up until you are satisfied that, yeah, I am now satisfied about my performance. But for sure, you can't be 100% to say, I now understand objective reality of my teaching. No, you'll keep on working. You have this today, you keep up until you reach a stage where you will teach any individual. That individual should get 100% in anything. You coach a football club, they must always win and score goals according to your plan. If you want them to score them at 10 past 4, you tell whosoever you want to score goals at 10 past 4. Therefore, you have what we call a theory that gives you objective reality. Therefore, all nations will come back to you to say, please give us the theory, because that theory is working. But at the moment, we are all in the search. We are searching for that. So we are bringing you now to say, let's use curriculum now to search for that. So in what we are doing, usually we are following action research, but we are not aware, because we always try to plan, lesson plan, and then we go to teach, and then we come back frustrated to say, but these learners were not listening to me. And then when you reflect, you start to say, oh, but this thing did not work, and this and this. You replan again. So in a way, you are doing action research, but you are not aware. And then you try to improve all the time. When you improve, and then it's according to what we have reflected on there. That's action research. So another position of action research is this one, but it's the same as the other one because that's phase 1 and phase 2. You see, you plan, you act, you observe, reflect, replan, act, observe, reflect, all the way until you are satisfied that whatever your performance is has improved. But we also have this one, educational design research. That's curriculum theory as well. So professors like Jan van den Eken, who has indicated the issue of curricular spiderweb, is interested in this because he has managed to improve education in Netherlands, working with his team and helping other countries as well to deal with this issue. But they are dealing with research that is of this educational design research. So they have the paradigm, which is pragmatic paradigm, and then they use this approach as their design. What they do then, they read the literature and go to the site and observe those people who are there. So going with the understanding of the literature, if it is about tourism, they will first read extensively on tourism, and then they'll go to the site where this tourism is being taught. Then they will observe the situation there. When they do that, they will design a certain model that will be informed by literature theories as well as what is happening there. When they have that design, they'll call it is a prototype. It's a prototype, which they will go there and implement. As you can see here, that this indicates the implementation, because here you are reading literature, but you don't understand what is happening there according to the people whom you are going there to address. But you know that the subject is tourism. So when you go to them, you extend what the literature is saying with what is really happening in that environment. Then once you have that, you'll design a prototype. Prototype will be reflecting what the literature informed you about and what the site has indicated. Then you implement it, you go and practice it. If it is working, whether it's working or not, you must reflect on it and design another one, implement it again. You design another one, implement it. You go all the phases like action research. And then when you are done, you have a final evaluation where you evaluate where you started up until to the last part. And then you start to question that thing that you have been doing. And then you give the report. You are done with your research. And then your report, your findings will be based on what the process has produced. Then you are done. So that will improve the practice then. So it's similar to action research. So curriculum is powerful because of these approaches, research approaches of curriculum. How we approach curriculum, approach it like this. But all articles that are relevant are uploaded in your learning management system. Your learning management system has all these theories, and also even educational design research is part of that. So much that when you come to it, then you will then be able to deal with it according to your needs. So your needs